This presentation will address the focus question, how is injury rehabilitation managed? And it will focus specifically on return to play, and this will be part one of a two-part series. The presentation will address indicators of readiness for return to play, pain-free and degree of mobility, and monitoring progress pre and post-test. By the end of the presentation, you should be able to answer the following question: evaluate skill and other physical tests that could be used to indicate readiness to return to play. What is required for an athlete to return to play? An athlete should have completed a rehabilitation program. They should be at their pre-injury fitness and skill level. This means that they should be at the skill level that they were before they got injured, and they should have the fitness level that they had before they got injured, before they can return to play. The athlete, medical staff, and the coach all should be in agreement about whether the player is ready to return, and they should have a high level of confidence that they're able to participate at a high level. The athlete should never apply pressure to the coach or doctor, and it really should be a combined unified decision by the athlete, medical staff, and coach. Before being allowed to return, athletes should be pain-free. They should have full movement and full range of motion, and they should be at full strength, and they should have received an assessment by a medical practitioner. If any of these aspects are not met, the athlete could be putting themselves at further risk of injury if they return to play. Indicators of readiness to return to play can include the following: elasticity and flexibility of the injured area, the strength of the injured area, the mobility or the range of motion of a particular joint. It should be pain-free, the area should be pain-free, and they should have balance that is comparable to what they were pre-injury. Monitoring progress pre and post-test. Coaches and medical officials or practitioners can use observation to determine whether their athlete is ready to return, so they can observe their skill level and their performance. They can conduct interviews, which are very good to determine the psychological readiness of the athlete, to determine whether they're confident enough to return. They can undertake or implement ongoing testing procedures that can monitor their progress throughout the rehabilitation program. They can complete performance evaluations, and they can get the opinions of various medical professionals. Physical tests can be basic or advanced, and on this continuum you can see that basic jogging and sidestepping, passing and catching, these are basic physical tests that an athlete should be able to do if they are wanting to return to play. They can complete specific fitness tests like shuttle runs and 50-meter sprints and agility tests, which can actually be timed and which can yield results that can be compared to their pre-injury state. And this can move on to more advanced drills that actually include the actual game-related drills, and can put the athlete under some pressure that would be experienced in the game. So just what fitness tests could be used to determine readiness to return to play? A progressive shuttle run measures cardiorespiratory endurance, and this could be used to measure whether an athlete is fit enough or has the correct endurance levels to return to play. These results from the progressive shuttle run could be compared to the athlete's pre-injury levels. If the athlete was able to achieve to level 10 on the beep test prior to their injury, they can be retested on this towards the end of their rehabilitation to determine whether they are ready to return. And if they are getting close to that pre-injury level, then they may be able to return to play. The Illinois agility test is a test to measure how fast the athlete, how quickly an athlete can change direction and move from one place to another. It could be useful for an athlete that's experienced a knee or ankle injury, and what it does is it allows the coach to be able to tell whether the athlete is ready to put themselves under some pressure and be able to move at high speed as would be expected in competition. So again, these results can be progressively monitored over the rehabilitation period and can be compared back to pre-injury level to determine whether the athlete is ready to return. The 50-metre sprint test measures speed. Great test for an athlete that's experienced a hamstring strain or a quadriceps strain. Again, speed levels can be monitored, their times can be monitored over time, and throughout the rehab program you can then compare back to pre-injury levels, and this can determine their readiness to return. The push-up test measures muscular endurance and would be a good test if someone had experienced a shoulder, wrist or arm injury. Again, the results can be progressively monitored over time, and when the athlete has reached their pre-injury level, they can then return. The hand dynamometer test measures grip strength and could be used for an athlete that has experienced a hand injury, fracture, or a wrist injury. The vertical jump test measures leg power. If an athlete has experienced a knee injury, an ankle injury, or muscle strains, then this test is going to be good to be able to determine whether the athlete can explode at great power. Again, progress can be monitored over time and compared to pre-injury levels to determine whether the athlete is ready to return. The ruler drop test or the SVT light board test is good to measure reaction time, and a whole range of injuries would benefit from this test. And again, results can be recorded over time. Progress can be monitored to track whether the athlete is improving and whether they are ready to return. The alternate hand ball toss test measures coordination. Great for shoulder injury, arm injury, or even a head injury to determine whether the athlete is ready to return. The balance board or stalk stand tests measure balance, and physiotherapists will often use these types of tests to determine whether an athlete has recovered from a knee or ankle injury and whether they have the balance required to return to play. And these tests can be timed, so the athlete can have their progress monitored. The sit and reach test measures flexibility and great to determine whether a hamstring strain has fully healed. If an athlete has progressed to flexibility similar to their pre-injury level, then the medical staff will conclude that the injury is healed and the athlete is ready to return. Game-related drills and modified games are very, very important, and they test skills, they test the capacity of a player to perform under pressure, it also measures endurance and other aspects of fitness. So what they do is they really just put the athlete under the pressure that would be experienced in the game. And so these activities could include a 2-on-1 drill or a 5-on-2 drill, or it could be a full contact modified game. And coaches and trainers would generally observe the player's performance, and they would observe their capacity to compete with their opposition, their ability to avoid making mistakes, and basically just to adapt to the game environment. Very important that the athlete can perform in these types of drills and games before they return to play. Just a quick look at the question again, and evaluate obviously means make a judgment of value based on criteria, and we need you to link back to those fitness tests and make sure that you're able to articulate how the tests can enable coaches and trainers to make a comparison to the athletes' pre-injury levels to determine whether they are ready to return to play. The language for evaluate: significant, important, effective, considerable, useful and helpful. You really need to use this language when you're making a judgment about the skill and other physical tests that you are evaluating. Thank you very much for listening, and stay tuned for part 2 of Return to Play. Thank you.